coded in Python, right? When you don't have such proofs, nobody is gonna believe you in software world or in the corporate world. You need to create some proofs for yourself. When you say you know Python or you know web development, you should create some proofs. So that is called proof of work. So projects are the best way. There are certain different ways as well, like writing blogs or giving a talk like this, like I am giving. All these are all these can be considered as proof of work. So the easiest one and uh, the most valuable one is projects, building projects. So when you create when you say you are creating a proof of work for yourself, you can create a project, write blogs, or open source your code. Open source your code means you can show the world what you're building with. They can say what kind of language you're using, what frameworks are you using. All those can be done by open source your code on a hosting or a public platform like GitHub. So that is the thing about projects. You are building a proof of work for yourself. So now we'll go on to today's topic, which is so today's topic is an API, right? So API. So let us know what's API first. In basic terms, API is just like a bridge between two applications. In a real life situation, when we say a bridge, it is to connect two lands, right? You're connecting one land to another land, or you're making a pathway. So that's a bridge. It is similar here as well. When you say you're building a backend, you're building a front end, or you're connecting to a database, these all should be interconnected with each other, right, to work seamlessly or to work as we expect it to work. So how are all these connected with each other? These are connected with a thing called API. It's a software thing. Let me give you a real world example. You go to Amazon, you order something on your mobile app. Okay, it may be Android or iOS or something else. So you order an item on your mobile phone or on your mobile app. But when you go to your computer or a desktop machine, you can see the same orders and you can track those orders. You can view all the details, right? Have you ever wondered how this happens? How a website and a mobile phone app are connected seamlessly, and information gets updated with all the devices at the same time. That is because of an API. The mobile phone app which you are using is also fetching its data from an API, the same API which is used by your desktop browser as well. So that's the thing about APIs. So API is an acronym for Application Programming Interface. So it is defined as a system of tools. There are many endpoints. When we say endpoints, like I said, we can take Amazon as an example. There are orders, there are payments, then there are returns, there is shipping details. All these are different parts, right? These are different features of an API. So every single thing, the payment, the shipping, every single feature has a single endpoint. That endpoint is related to a single entity, like payments. One endpoint is linked to payment, another endpoint is linked to shipping or something like that. So there are many endpoints, and then the result or the response from an API will generally be in a JSON format. This is a language, but it's a very simple one. We'll see about it in this session itself. So JSON is your result. Now, when you request to an API, it sends JSON as a output. So when we talk about internet or web in general, it's a very simple system, right? On the on the air, when we browse Instagram or when we click on someone's profile, it takes his username as a request and gives their photos or gives their information as a response to you. That's what called as client and server system, client and server architecture. You send request as a client and then receive a response back from the server. But it is not that simple as well, right? There are photos, there are videos, there are number of likes, there are what else? There are privacy systems. There's an OTP for your password reset. There's a database to store your information. All this stuff, right? All single entities like database and then sending a OTP to reset your password or something else, or two-factor authentication. Every single feature has a API. That is how API comes as a bridge in between server and the client. This API has many different endpoints, and one can be to fetch all your friends' photos, and then next one can be sending an OTP for your mobile phone, and then to send an OTP to your mobile phone, the system should have your phone number saved, right? That is stored in a database. So to access your phone number from a database, there's an API for that as well. So every single thing has a endpoint. That is how API comes into picture. Or let's take a very general example. Okay, you are a customer attending a restaurant, and then there's a chef preparing your food. You don't directly go to the chef and ask him to prepare what you want, right? Or you just don't enter the kitchen and then ask him to make whatever you want and bring it back to your table. You don't do that, right? Here, you as a customer, you can think yourself as a client, and then the chef here can be a server, and the waiter, which acts as a bridge between the chef and the customer, can be called as an API here. The chef comes to you, asks for your requirements or your what you need to eat, and takes a note of it, right? And then he passes on that to the chef, and the chef returns it to. I mean, the chef does what the API says. What's the request? What the particular request? If you order for a veg food, that you can take as a single endpoint. The veg food is a single endpoint. The non-veg food is a single another endpoint. When you request for a non-veg food, obviously non-veg will be served as a response, right? You can imagine how API comes into picture. So now there are different type of APIs as well. When we say APIs, we use mobile phones. So your mobile phone has a OS, operating system. To and your mobile phones have hundreds of different components, right? It has battery, it has a camera, it has a speaker, it has many such things, right? To grab information from your camera and to show it on your screen, like camera shows your picture, right? So to display that picture on your screen from the camera, there should be a bridge, right? So that bridge between camera and the screen is an API. That's called a camera API. And then when you press play button on your screen, when you're playing a certain video or a music, the speaker reacts to it, right? When you press play, the output is on the speaker. The speaker and the screen should also be related in some way, right? That is also done using a API. There are several different APIs. The example I gave about mobile phones are between hardware like cameras, speakers, all those stuff, between hardware and then other hardware, which is a screen or your touch sensor. Those are hardware APIs. Okay, then there are many different APIs, and in one of them which we use on the internet is a web API. So in a web API, we have very simple four different features. One is this uh, this word CRUD. It is pronounced as CRUD. These are the four basic functions of a web API. In while C means create. To create something, when you say create, let's take database an example. There's a database in college as an example. There's a new admission to your college and you have to enter his details on your database, so that you're creating a new entry, right? You're creating a uh, new record in the database. So to create that in web APIs, we use post requests or post method. These are all HTTP methods. HTTP, you might know HTTP if you use internet. HTTP is the very basic protocol to use internet. So to create a new record, post is the method, and then fetching the available entries. Let's say the college has many records about students, right? They need to check all the students details. So to fetch all the student details, while I say fetch, when we read from a database or anywhere else, we use get request. We send get request to get information from a API. And we'll be doing this today. We'll be doing the reading part. Creating, updating, deleting requires more time and more programmatical knowledge. We can maybe keep it for later. Today we'll be doing the read part because reading is easy. We'll just use the get request, and we'll be not be creating an API today. We'll be exploring public APIs which are created by someone else or different companies, or which are publicly available to us, and we can fetch some data from it, and we'll see how we can use it in our applications. And then put is a request when we need to update something. Let's say there's a first year student from mechanical branch or electrical, any branch, and he wants to change his branch from mechanical to CS. Okay, there's already a entry of him. There's already a record of him in the database, that is a student of our college, but his branch needs to be updated. Here we need not create a new entry. Okay, there's already an entry. We need to change a certain aspect of that entry. Here, then in those cases we use put to update an entry. And finally, deleting an entry is we send a request. Let's say alumni or something like that, we leave the college. Maybe they don't need our information in the active database. So to delete all those not so needed records, we use delete. Delete is a method name. So you need to remember post, put. You need to remember this word called CRUD. CRUD means basically these four functions. When we talk about APIs or any web APIs, these four functions are very important. When we talk database, then also this is also important. And then how we achieve all these functions by using these methods. So now we'll create a simple program, very basic and simple program to fetch from data. So until now, if you have any doubts, you can put it in the chat before we go into programming. If you need to ask something or something in general about what we just discussed, you can put it in the chat or open your mics.
Guys, just try to communicate. Anyone having a doubts? You can open up your mic and speak out. If it's not possible, you can just ping it out your messages in the chat box. You can just read it out. No one? Sanjay, we having a question like, do we have to write a code for CRUD? Sanjay?
Hello, hello. Huh.
Yeah.
Do we have to write a code for CRUD? Yes, we'll need to write a code for CRUD. But if you already have an API, let's say public APIs, we use login with Google, right? When you have to sign up for something, there's an option called login with Google. Maybe it's not a Google's application, but we still have that option. That is through APIs. In such situations, when there's a existing API from a different company or someone else's software, we need not write, we need not build a API again. We can just use these CRUD functions on that API as well. Uh, that is possible, or else we can create our own API. There are different frameworks such as Django for Python. There are and then there's Node.js for JavaScript, and there are many different frameworks with different languages. For that you'll be have to for that we'll need to write code, but today we'll write code for the read part. We'll see how we can read from a existing API. We'll not be building APIs, we'll be reading from APIs. So you will have an idea how to communicate with an API. Anything else?
Savitra, you got the answer, I think. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Anyone, guys? Yeah, Sanjay, we can continue the session.
Okay. Is my screen visible?
Yeah, Sanjay, it's visible.
Okay, this is a website where we can find publicly available APIs. There are many categories as well. We have all these categories, and most of them are free to use. You don't have to pay anything or something. Most of them will be pay to use. I mean free to use. Sorry. F- you can explore this website. There are let's say sports. There are many APIs related to sports. As I said, these are pre-made APIs. You all might be knowing the CrickBuzz site. uh, this is a very famous one for cricket scores. They have a API as well. You can fetch latest cricket scores or results or something like that. So there are many such APIs, already pre-made APIs, which are publicly available. You can just interact with them and use them in different projects as well. So today we'll be just going and searching something about animals or something. So there's this API for zoo animals. So what we will be doing is we'll be using this API and then check how we can fetch data from this API. This has information about zoo animals, so we'll see how we can fetch the data. So for this, we'll be going to our code editor. So today we'll be using Python to do it. So I'll just create a new file. And name it something like animal API.py. So we'll be using a library called request for this program. Uh, as I said here, we'll be we'll need to use all these methods, right? Post, get, put, and delete. All these methods can be used by a library called request in Python. So for that, you just need to install it from the pip. You say pip install request. Request with an S. It's a plural. I have it installed, so let's go ahead and do. So we'll be importing requests from there. Are the fonts visible? Should I do it bigger or some?
Yeah, Sanjay, I think it's visible. Anybody wants zoom in? I think no one.
Okay, we'll just go ahead and import the library called request. And then, as I said in the presentation, the output will be available in the format of JSON. So JSON is native to JavaScript. So as we are using Python, we'll also need a library called JSON. It is a default library. We don't need to download install it. So we import requests and JSON, these two libraries, and then the good thing about Rapid API is they give you code snippets as well. If you go here and then select Python, and there are many different ways of doing this. We are using request library, so I'll be choosing request here, and then this is the main URL. Okay, I'll be copy pasting the URL here. So we have an URL. If you click on this URL, it says invalid API key. Okay, so this API is protected. This needs a key to open it. If you go to the API and if you're not able to access it, it says that you'll be needing a key, an API key to access it. So they have given us the API keys as well. So we'll go ahead and copy that as well. So it says rapid API key. So we'll be needing this key to access this API in particular. There are many freely available public APIs as well. So now we have these, we have our API URL and we have our API key. Okay, then we'll need to send a request to this URL, right? As I said, um, to read from an API, we'll be using get request. Okay, so we'll say we are sending a request and accepting a response. So to store that response, we'll take a variable as a response, and here we'll be using a request library. So request dot request. Yeah, we need to send a request here. Request, what type of request to read from an API? We'll be using get requests. So we need to specify that here as get. So request dot get, and reading from what? We are reading from this URL. So and this string is stored in this URL variable. So we'll just pass in that as well. So this line says we are accepting a response while we are sending a request to this certain URL and using get method. Okay, I hope I'm clear here. And then Uh, Now we'll just try to print the response. Okay, we are getting a response code here. There are different type of response code. We can quickly Google. As I said, these all are HTTP methods, and these are HTTP status codes. While we have codes starting with 2 or 200, those are all are successful responses. You can read about it, and then we got a 400 code. So this says error. There's a error in your response, or the request what we sent did not get executed, and we don't have a response. So this is about the response code. What we missed here is we are sending a request, get request to this URL, just like we send it here. But we are not using this API key here in this request anywhere, right? So we are getting that 400 status code, which is a client error. So here client error means error is on our side. We didn't provide them our API key. So it's called a client error. We sent a bad request. Okay, so we go ahead and include these headers as well. Right. Now we'll try and see. We need to set it to a header variable function. Okay, it's headers, not okay, header. This argument is built to this function called request, which is in the request library, and we are assigning to our headers, which we have a API key. This header is nothing but a dictionary which has this key value pairs. So we are setting our headers to the argument in this request function. Okay, now our response code changed to 200. If you go ahead and see what response code 200 means, this is a okay status code. So it says it's a standard successful response for get, post, and all other requests. So we are trying to use get, and there's a successful code response. Just don't need the response code, right? We need the information. So to access it, we we access the text part of the response. So let's see what we get now. Okay, we just got a large list. Okay, these are lists. So this is in a JSON format. So if you quickly go to your browser and say JSON viewer, you need not learn this JSON thing. It's just a notation. Okay, now we copy all our output. And if you quickly paste it here and say format, Now we can see it more clearly. So these square brackets denote an array or a list in Python. And this dictionary, these flower brackets denote a dictionary in Python, right? In JSON, it's the same thing. We have a key value pair. Inside of a flower bracket, we have key value pairs. When we say name, we have this eagle owl, and then there are many such keys, and they have their values. Okay, this is just an information we fetched using get request, and there are image links as well. So we'll just see how we can save it to a JSON file using Python. Okay, to use it further, we need to save it somewhere, right? So if you go ahead and check the type of this response, it says class str. Str means string here, right? But our response is not just a string; it's a JSON structure. So JSON is not native to Python; it's native to JavaScript. So we don't get JSON type response here. We just get a string. So we need to convert it into JSON. That's why we imported this JSON library. Okay. So when I say JSON, it's just this part. We have flower brackets and a key value pair. If you compare this with Python, it's just a dictionary, right? Syntax of a dictionary is same as this. It's same as a flower bracket, and then key. Here, for example, key is your